Okay, so I'm hoping that I can crop that last one a little bit because it was over the 15-minute limit that Google allows. So I'm going to start this over for the proof. That way we make sure we get it all in there. Okay, this is the proof using midpoint. And we are given that M is the midpoint of FG and that FM equals 3x minus 4 and MG equals 5x minus 26. Now, if you guys want to flip this over and write your proof on the back, I'm going to use some of this paper that's below where yours would end. And there are a lot of steps to this proof, so make sure that you have either a separate piece of paper or something with extra room. So the first thing we want to do is draw our diagram. So M is the midpoint of F and G. And FM is 3x minus 4, and MG is 5x minus 26. We want to prove that the total distance is 58. So we're going to have statements and reasons. And the first one is always given, and we just rewrite what we have. M is the midpoint of FG. FM equals 3x minus 4. And MG equals 5x minus 26. Okay, the second step is we want to talk about what it means to have a midpoint. Midpoint, the definition of midpoint that we saw earlier in our notes, said that it created two congruent segments, or they had equal measure. So it's telling us that both sides of those are congruent based on the midpoint. So then we can say that segment FM is congruent to segment MG, and the reason is the definition of midpoint. Now, in order to prove that FG equals 58, we have to make that congruent sign turn into an equal sign. Well, we know that if something is congruent, their measures are equal. So if we just remove that line from the top, we can say that the measure of FM is congruent to the measure of MG, and that is by the definition of congruence. We use that a lot to go from congruent to equal or from equal to congruent. Okay, so step number 4. I know that FM is this, so I'm going to substitute it here. And I know that MG is this, so I'm going to substitute that there. So I'm going to say that FM is really 3x minus 4, and that MG is really 5x minus 26. So we are using substitution property of equality. Substitution property of equality. Okay, so step 5, we're going to want to start to solve this. So I am going to subtract 3x from both sides. So that leaves negative 4 equals 2x minus 26. That is the subtraction property of equality. Now I'm going to have to add 26 to both sides. So that leaves me with 22 equals 2x. So that is the addition property of equality. Remember, we can abbreviate addition because it can't get confused with substitution and subtraction. All right, so step number 7, we're going to divide both sides by 2. So 11 equals x. That is the division property of equality. And we have a segment addition postulate that tells me that if I add 2 smaller segments, so if I add segment FM to segment MG, I get segment FG, which is perfect. So number 9, if FM is 3x minus 4 and MG is 5x minus 26, that equals FG. That's using the substitution property. Property of equality. We also know that we can substitute in for x. So step number 10, x is 11. So 3 times 11 minus 4 plus 5 times 11 minus 26 equals FG. That is also the substitution property of equality. Now, if you add that all up, you get that FG equals 58, which I think is what they wanted us to prove. FG is 58 right there, so we're good. Now, the reason for that is not prove. The reason for that is that we simplified. So simplify. We simplified on this side of the equation, all of that down. And you just proved with 11 steps, that was kind of a long proof, that the segment addition, or that the midpoint works with that given example. Okay, so your homework assignment is on your calendar. Please Skype me on your blue days so I know if you have any questions, I can get those answered. And my goal is to make sure that you have, by the class time today, that you have your first assignment back in Google Classroom, so you might check those and see if they were returned with your answers.